So my talk today, it is ask and it is given. And I'm actually, because I love to do series, would you mind turning that down to 1? Because I love to do series, Linda, and also because I'm not crazy about the month of August. And a few years ago, I decided I'm going to start finding the reasons to love August. And so this year, my reason to love August is I'm doing a 4-part series, and it's in the art of allowing the good to come into our life. And so today I'm going to be talking about how we ask and receive, and that this is a thing that's actually happening all the time. We just may not think about it, but it's happening 24/7. The second in the series will be a creative process. Okay, once we get the hang of this asking and receiving, then we have a creative process that will enhance the good that we're bringing into our life. And then I'll be talking about synchronicity on the third Sunday, because when we are engaging really with our divine nature and the creative process, what happens is synchronicity just is making so many things happen together for our good. Because the universe likes to make things happen together. Okay, good things happen together. And then the last Sunday I'll be talking about how when life still feels really hard, even though we feel like we're working all the principles. Okay? So that is our 4-part series. So today is Ask and We Receive. Now, when we align with our divine nature, when we are engaged with our divinity, life seems to happen smoothly, and there's more happiness that we experience. When we are engaged with our divinity, we ask and we receive things that we want. We seek and we find clarity. When we knock, all of the doors go flying open, right? And there are just so many opportunities present to us. Now, when we are not in alignment with our divine nature, and I think we've all probably had that feeling, we ask and then receive something we didn't want. Like, well, I didn't ask for that, I asked for something better, and ow. Okay, when we are out of alignment with our divine nature, we seek, but we don't find clarity. We go to knock, and doors are like slammed into our face before we can get up there. And so the key to our happiness or unhappiness can really be found in our alignment with our divine nature. Are we engaging with the divinity that works through us, for us, as us? And so what I mean when I'm saying aligning with our divine nature, what I'm meaning is that having awareness of the divine as it works through us, how we are the activity of spirit in this world. That in the unity philosophy, we talk about how God is all things. And this is not just a philosophy, it's a way of living. It's a way of living, and you have to develop a practice of getting up every day and reminding yourself, God is everywhere present. So to align with our own divine nature, to engage with our inner divinity, we have to automatically be able to remember this. God is in all things. God is in everything that has ever been, everything that I see now, and everything that is yet to be. And that means me. I am an extension of source energy. All of you are an extension of source energy. Everybody is an extension of source energy because all things are source energy. And then source continues to work through us in invisible ways, through inspiration and through divine ideas. That's how source continues to work through us, that even inspiration and divine ideas are from source. So source is all things. That also means that in every situation, in every circumstance, in every event, there is present within that a divine intelligence. There is present within all things a divine intelligence. Now, this is important for us to remind ourselves of because we are perceiving the world every day in a certain way. But we're perceiving the world either through acknowledging our divine nature and seeing God is everywhere present, or we are looking out at the world with the perception of this is a broken world. Things are falling apart. I'm afraid. And we're not engaged with our divine nature. Now, also in the unity philosophy, we wouldn't look at a broken world. We instead are looking at the wholeness. Because if God is everywhere present, then the divine intelligence is in all things. So we're not fixing a broken world, we are seeing the world through the eyes of spirit. And where can we call forth spirit in our day? Okay, that's how we see the world. Now, it can sound crazy. It can sound crazy to think that this is possible because we turn on the news and there's ample evidence that there is a malfunction in humankind. Okay, there's ample evidence. How do we say that we don't live in a broken world when you can drive down Yucaipa Boulevard and see all the homeless and hungry people? Right? How do we say we don't live in a broken world when people that are in our lives, and maybe we fall into this category somewhat, but how do we say that when there's sickness and despairing and living in poverty, people who feel lonely, people who feel that they have no purpose, people who feel misunderstood, ashamed, afraid, unworthy? How are we saying then that we don't live in a broken world? How do we say that when we are amidst all this suffering? Well, we can't say that if we are not in alignment with our divine nature. So we have to align with our divine nature first. Remember the spirit within us and the activity of spirit through all things. That's everywhere present. That's how we expand the light in this world. And that is how we see a world that is in wholeness. When we live in alignment with our divine nature first, we see the wholeness and we see the possibility of spirit expression through every circumstance, through every event. And then we can remember that light for those who can't remember. Okay, the hungry, the homeless, the sick, the despairing, people who feel like they don't have a purpose, they're lost, unworthy, afraid, ashamed. We remember that light for them. That is our purpose here, remembering to see that light in all things. Now, to have that life where we knock and all the doors fly open, when we seek and find the clarity, to have that life where we ask and receive our good, our greatest good. That's the life we have when we are in alignment with our divine nature. So we have to get into alignment. Now, luckily, we don't have to stay in struggle. Being in struggle is actually an indicator that we've forgotten about our divinity. Being in struggle is the indicator that we've forgotten to cast our burdens. Okay, like Jesus said, cast your burdens on me, for my yoke is light. Okay, the things that we don't know what to do with, we just cast our burdens on spirit. I don't know how to stop feeling hurt. I don't know how to stop feeling unlucky. I don't know, but I do know there is that within me that knows what to do, how to do it, and it will compel me to act on what it knows. So to be in alignment with our divine nature doesn't mean we have to be doing everything right. It just means we remember what works through us and that we don't have to have all the answers. Because what works through us can give us the answers and give us guidance. Now, so I'm going to share my favorite story out of the Bible that is about how we can turn away from our divine nature and turn back toward our divine nature. Okay? And it is the prodigal son, the story of the prodigal son. Now, the first 100 times I heard this story, I didn't really care for it. It didn't make any sense to me. I thought it was about just being a good kid. That's what I thought when I was a little kid. Okay, but the prodigal son is a story about going into the far country and ignoring divine direction. Okay, so there's a father and he has two sons. His youngest son decides he can do better. So he asks his father for his share of the inheritance because he's going to go off into the far country, the big city, and live life his way. Now his father, without judgment, gives him his money. So the son goes off to the far country, the big city, and he's living a good life, right? The life he thinks is a great life. He has a lot of food, a lot of entertainment, and lots of friends. But then he spends all his money, and then he runs out of food. And so all of a sudden now his friends are gone. He has nothing, and he has to go find somebody who will give him a job because now he's starving. He gets a job feeding the swine. And so he's out there feeding the swine, And he has an epiphany, an aha moment. He says to himself, when I was at home, I had a roof over my head, and I had clothes to wear, and I had food in my belly. And right now I'm feeding swine, and they eat better than I do. They're eating better than I do. And at my home, even my father's servants have a great life. The servants have a great life. What am I doing out here? What was I thinking? He decides to go home, and all he does is turn toward home. He just turns toward home, and immediately his father turns toward him. And his father meets him. His father meets him. And he embraces him. And he says, my son, you were lost and now you were found. Now, this young man had decided he was going to beg his father to let him come home. He was going to beg him to just let me be a servant, Dad. That was his plan. Just let me at least be a servant, anything. And then, so he meets his father meets him, and he goes to beg forgiveness from his father. But his father's just like, my son who was lost is found. And just hugged his son. Had the servant bring him a robe and a big ring. And he told the servant to go home and prepare a big celebration. Big celebration. So, the son who was lost was now found. But see, at home, there was the older brother. And the older brother hears from the servant, we're going to have a big party for your little brother. And the older brother's like, you're having a party for my brother who ran off, shirked his duties at home, spent all his money, and I've been here the whole time doing my father's bidding and not spending all my money on partying, and he's getting a celebration? So there's a little victim consciousness going on there, even though he was at home. So when the father and the younger son return, the older son says to his father, Father, I've done all of this, and I haven't blown all my money, and I do everything you tell me to do, and yet you're giving him a celebration and not me. And the father says, my son, we're celebrating my son who was lost and is now found. You have always been here. Everything I have has always been yours. Everything I have has always been yours. Now, on a metaphysical level, the younger son, he went off to the far country. Now, the far country is when we turn away from divine direction. I know better. I'm not going to follow that guidance, okay? Like, the first time I was given divine direction to go off sugar, which was years ago, you know what I said back? Nah, I could do better. I could find a different alternative, right? I don't really need to go off sugar. I just need to, I don't know. But I'll think of something, but it's not sugar. Right? I ignored it because I knew better. Okay, that's what we do. When we go into the far country, we go into isolation. We go into isolation. We cut ourselves off from that direction, from the love that is always available for us. But we isolate ourselves. Now, when he turned toward home, his father met him right then and there. His father just met him. Now, sometimes we might think that we're in the middle of struggle. Okay, when we are in struggle, we have to do certain things first. Okay, all right, I want to ask for help. I guess first I've got to get out of this hole, and then I'm going to try to do this. But right there in the middle of that struggle, that's where our Father meets us. That's where Spirit meets us. Right there. All we have to do is be willing to engage with our divine nature. Spirit meets us right where we are, no matter what we're going through. Spirit meets us there. We don't have to get back to where we're practicing all the spiritual principles great. We don't have to get back there. We just have to engage here and now. The younger son understood that it was going off into that isolation that caused his suffering. That's why he suffered. Now, the older son, he managed to suffer right at home with all that goodness available to him. He managed to do that. Now, sometimes, what happens is we think we're doing all the things we should be. We think we're praying. We think we're in a spiritual practice, yet there's a part of us that is not engaged. We're not all the way engaged. We're not all the way in. And so life feels hard. But we think we're doing the practices, but we're not. Okay, that's what happens. So feelings, our feelings have a very important role to play in our understanding if we are engaged with our divine nature or not. Our feelings will tell us, are we in the far country? Are we feeling a little self-righteous and arrogant, like we can do it better? Okay, are our feelings, are we being the martyr, the victim, not accepting the gifts that are here? Okay, we are not engaged with our divine nature. So feelings are really important. Our feelings are an emotional guidance system. And they're telling us, are we moving toward our divinity or are we moving away from our divinity? Because we know how we feel. We know that some feelings feel good. And we know that some feelings feel bad. Because there are certain feelings that are simply not in alignment with us as a spiritual being. The practice of judgment, having victim consciousness, being a martyr, being hateful, being self-righteous. Those don't feel great because they are not in alignment with who we are as an infinite being in a body. But when we come out of the far country, and we start aligning with spirit again, we start that process, we may not right away experience the feelings of, wow, love, joy, bliss. Okay, we may not experience that right away. But see, other feelings that we can experience that are in alignment with our divine nature, maybe as we're coming right out of a struggle, would be curiosity and compassion, caring and calm, courage and clarity. Okay, those are all indicators that we're engaging with the divine. And even if we're still recovering from a struggle and suffering, if we can engage with those gentle feelings, the courage, the compassion, we are engaging with our divine nature. We've moved out of the far country. We've moved out of isolation. Now, I heard this quote in A Course in Miracles years and years ago. It's not from A Course in Miracles, but I don't know who said it. Our life is governed by the truth, whether we believe it or not. However, our experience of life is governed by our beliefs, whether they are true or not. We have experiences, and it's our divine guidance, okay, engaging with our divine nature is what helps us handle the experience. It's what helps us handle the situation. Because we've engaged with our divine nature doesn't mean that everything is peaches and cream around us. Even Ernest Holmes said that sometimes there will be thorns, right? There's the rose, but sometimes there will be thorns. And what we have to do is put our attention to pull that thorn out of our finger. Okay, so we have different situations we go through, and it's our engagement or lack of engagement that will determine how we experience that situation. So I'm going to share a story, and it's actually kind of embarrassing, but I'm going to share it. Okay, back in 2012, I had gone off of gluten, but I wasn't happy about it, and I was kind of a victim about it. And one of my friends took me out for my birthday for lunch, and the waiter brings a piece of birthday cake. And so here my friend has just treated me to a lunch, but the waiter brings this piece of birthday cake. People sing happy birthday, and they walk away, and I'm like, oh, thank you, thank you. Then they walk away, though, and I push the cake toward my friend, and I say, I don't do gluten. And you know, most restaurants, they don't understand that so many people can't eat gluten. So I can't even eat this piece of birthday cake. And I think I went on for a little bit longer than that because my friend, you know, who I pushed the cake toward, she had a couple of bites and then she was just kind of like, yeah, okay, Deanna, I got it. Now, of course, in my defense, I was having a really rough time of life right then. But that was a cake situation. That was just an event where somebody brought me a piece of cake, that's all. But I approached it 100% victim consciousness. Didn't appreciate the beautiful lunch, didn't appreciate the couple hours I spent with my friend. I was all focused on a piece of cake that I couldn't eat. And the universe hated me. The universe hated me. Okay, so now, my birthday, 2017, 2 years ago. I'm at an event. It's my birthday. And the event is not about me. I wasn't like teaching or giving a class or anything. I was attending the event. Another person who I barely knew, didn't really know this person, they were more of an acquaintance, brings a birthday cake. And it's just a regular birthday cake. And it's with the kind of frosting that I don't even like anyway, right? That whipped cream frosting. Sorry, that's not frosting. Buttercream frosting. That's frosting. But so there's this cake. I know people who love whipped cream frosting. That's okay, you can. I love you anyway. He brings his cake, and it's a brilliant blue cake. And the first thing that popped into my head was, oh my gosh, this guy barely knows me, and he remembers it's my birthday, and he brought me a whole cake? Like, oh my gosh, how nice can people be? Like, he brought me this cake. And I didn't eat it. I took it home and gave it to the family. I didn't eat the cake. But I was in a whole different place. I had shifted my consciousness. I was deep into the practice of engaging with my divine nature because I was tired of the suffering. I was tired of feeling like a victim if somebody handed me a piece of cake I couldn't eat. But I was tired of that feeling. And we have to change our consciousness. That's what we're doing. When we're engaging with our divine nature, we're shifting our consciousness. Right? Now, I was able to shift it, and that means everybody can. If I can do it, everybody can do it. There is a verse in the Bible that King Solomon said. He said, guard your heart above all else. Out of it are all the issues of life. Well, we know the heart to be like a feeling center, right? We know that. We're kind of raised that way. Feelings all come from the heart. But science is also proving the heart has a brain of its own. It's a little tiny heart brain. It's a heart brain. The brain has a heart, or the heart has a brain. But the brain doesn't have a heart, but the heart has a brain. And so, but see, the people in King Solomon's time, they believed we did our thinking from the heart. We thought from here, and we felt from here. So they knew something ahead of their time. They knew something that we forgot and had to remember again, that we had to have science tell us it was okay to believe it. Guard your heart above all else, because out of it come all of the issues you will experience. Guard your heart above all else, because out of your thoughts and your feelings will come all the ways that you suffer. We have to change our thoughts, so we change how we feel about things, so we can stop suffering. Have you ever noticed, and we can all say this, because we all have a friend, right? It's not us. We all have a friend, though, who comes from victim consciousness all the time. It's not us, it's our friend. They come from victim consciousness all the time, and they seem to always come from victim consciousness no matter what happens, right? They can walk outside, and if it's too hot, it's the universe hates them and is making their life miserable. Somebody can give them a piece of cake, and they'll say, oh my God, the universe hates me, right? See, what happens is we get stuck in this way of thinking if we're not guarding our heart above all else, monitoring our thinking and our feeling, and letting those feelings tell us, am I engaged with my divine nature, or am I not? Am I in the far country? Right? Or am I suffering as a martyr right here at home, and I keep telling everybody how spiritual I am? Right? What am I doing right now? Our feelings create the consciousness that we act from. Somebody who tends to act judgmental will usually act judgmental. Every experience will be judgmental. Right? They can eat cake, but they receive that cake, and they're like, well, this cake isn't as good as so-and-so cake. Right? Even though it's free cake, right? They'll be like, well, this cake is not as good as vanilla cake or chocolate cake, right? They'll judge it, okay? People who have a hard time forgiving will always seem to have a hard time forgiving, right? Somebody could take their turn at a four-way stop, and they'll be thinking about how that person cut them off to ruin their day all day long. They can't let it go because they're not guarding their heart above all else. And out of it are coming all these issues. Our feelings create the consciousness that we act from. And this is the consciousness where we make decisions. We have to become a different person to have the experience that we want to bring into our life. Like, I literally became a different person between Cake Incident 2012 and Cake Incident 2017. I literally became a different person. Okay, so getting back to asking and receiving. When I ask, what am I given? The universe is responsive. It is always working through us, for us, as us. We are always asking all the time. We're always receiving all the time. But asking is not just our words. We think it is. We think we ask for something. But see, we know we can say things we don't mean. We know this. We're really good at this. If somebody gets the job we wanted, we can say right to their face, you're going to be so good at that. And then we turn around and go to the next person, they were a terrible choice. Oh my God, I cannot believe they got that job, right? What we say does not match up with what we are feeling, okay? Our spouse might say, I'd really like to have dinner at home tonight, but maybe we were thinking, God, I really want to go out to dinner. But then our spouse is like, can we just eat at home tonight? Would that be okay? And we say, yeah, that's fine. And our spouse can kind of sense that. Like, are you sure? And we say, yeah, it's no problem. But inside, we're resenting that we didn't get to go out to dinner. What we say is not in congruence with what we're feeling. They do not match up. There is a level of truth that's always right here in our feelings. Always right there. It's not always in the words we say, but our truth is always in our feelings. What we really like and don't like, what we really want and don't want. We may not always say it with our words, but we are always feeling it. It's in our feelings, and this is how we are asking. It is through our feelings. Through our feelings. So say we ask for love. I want more love in my life. I want deeper relationships and better friends, like more friends. I want to just spread my love to so many people. But then, what if we're afraid to open up to other people? What if we're skeptical about making a new friend because we think about the last friendship that fell apart? Okay, so what if we feel ashamed or unworthy? So we're asking for love, we're feeling fear, skepticism, shame, worry. What if we ask for well-being? But then we realize, well, I am really impatient and I do have a really short temper, but it's a luxury for people to get to meditate and have time developing peace and patience, and I just don't have that luxury. So we're asking for well-being, yet we're feeling impatient and annoyed. We ask for purpose and direction, but then we don't have faith. We don't have faith and we feel stuck where we are. So we're asking for purpose and direction, yet we're feeling fear and frustration. What we're asking for with our words, that doesn't matter. What are we feeling? That is what we are asking for. So our feelings are our guidance system. They tell us if we're in alignment or not. How do we do what we do? How do we feel while we're doing things? Are we feeling aggravated? Are we blaming? Or do we have enthusiasm? Right? Do we feel some freedom? Do we have this need to be like controlling? Right? Or feeling pressured? Or are we just persistent and feel supported? How are we feeling when we feel what we're feeling? How are we feeling when we're doing in our life? That's what we're asking for. Ask and it is given. Now, luckily, Jesus did give us a good starting point for this. He said, seek first the kingdom of God. Seek first the kingdom of God, and all things will be added to you. Seeking first the kingdom of God is redirecting our attention to the principle. God is everywhere present. God is all things, everywhere, everything that's ever been, everything that will be. God is every idea, inspiration, and God, I am also God walking around in a body. That means me. That's seeking first the kingdom of God, to direct our attention back to the activity of spirit that is us in a body. Bringing our attention back to that. I like to start off the process with taking a nice deep breath, because that resets our stubbornness. It really does. If you're like feeling really stubborn and aggravated sometime, just try that. Deep breathing a few times, man, you're like, okay, all right, it worked. It does. So we ask and receive, we ask and receive. And our feelings are reminding us, are we engaged with our divine nature, or are we in the far country? Ask and receive, ask and receive. Focus on our divine nature. Because asking and receiving all the time, this is part of the divine design, our divine design. And it's what makes us co-creators all the time. But we have to have a willingness to change our thoughts and be open to shifting our consciousness. But we are designed to do this. We're designed to create heaven on earth. And when we're engaged with our divine nature, no matter what's going on out here, we create heaven on earth right here. And then it starts spreading out. And so if all persons in this building right now, everyone in this room right now, if we all were creating heaven on earth by engaging with our divine nature, as we walk out of this room, it's like spreading and sticking to other people. Okay, it's going everywhere. Okay, so next week, now I will be talking about a specific process we can use with this good reminder on moving us forward. So, until next time, remember that you are the activity of spirit and body. You are the heart and hands of spirit in this world. You are a soul designed for growth and goodness, and everything you do, you are blessed. And so it is. So it is. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to ask our Divine Unity Band